At the end of the dirt road, surrounded by twisted trees, stood the red house. Its worn bricks seemed to bleed under the moonlight. The villagers said a woman lived there, but no one ever saw her leave. Clara, a newly arrived journalist, decided to investigate. Obsessed with local legends, she rented a room nearby and began to watch the house. For 3 nights, she saw lights turning on by themselves and shadows dancing in the windows. On the 4th night, Clara approached cautiously. The doors were open, creaking with the wind. A sweet, cloying perfume lingered in the air, and the entrance floor was covered in black petals, like a welcome mat. She slowly climbed the steps. The house seemed suspended in time, with antique furniture and clocks stopped at 3:13. A crooked portrait hung on the wall, a woman in a long dress, her eyes fixed in a subtle smile that sent chills down her spine. A music began to play somewhere upstairs, an old music box with a childlike melody. Clara ascended, guided by the sound. The hallway was dark, except for a slightly open door from which the music emanated. Inside, there was a child's room, abandoned but clean. Toys were organized, the bed made, and a doll sat in the center, facing the wall. Clara approached, but heard footsteps behind her and froze. When she turned around, there was no one. The doll, however, was now on the floor, with its arms outstretched. A whisper cut through the silence. "You came back." Clara recoiled, tripped over a chair, and ran out of the room. As she descended, she came face to face with the figure from the portrait standing in the living room. Her hair covered part of her face, and her dress dragged on the floor. Without moving her lips, she asked, "Have you seen my daughter?" Clara tried to respond, but her voice failed. The woman vanished in that instant. In the place where she had been, an old letter lay folded. It was a farewell from a mother driven mad after the death of her daughter in 1923. Each night, Clara returned to the house, drawn by forces she did not understand. She began to dream of the girl, locked in the room, asking for help. She always woke at 3:13 with handprints on the window panes. An old man from the village told her that decades ago, the woman of the red house lost her daughter in a fire. Since then, she had never been seen alive. But every full moon, someone claims to hear laughter and cries coming from there. Clara decided to dig in the house's yard. After hours of removing dirt, she found a small silver box. Inside were baby teeth and a piece of ribbon with the name Amelia embroidered on it. The wind suddenly stopped. The moment she opened the box, the house trembled. Doors slammed, windows shattered, and screams echoed through the walls. The woman appeared before her, now crying. She extended her hand and said, "Bring my daughter back." Clara fainted. When she woke up, she was lying in the same children's room. Everything was clean, calm, as if nothing had happened. But outside, the village looked at her strangely, as if she were someone else. Since then, Clara never wrote again, nor did she leave the house. At night, a female silhouette can be seen cleaning the porch, combing long hair, and singing the same childlike melody. Some say it is Clara. Others say it is Amelia. The red house remains there, waiting for the next curious visitor, because those who enter never leave the same. And sometimes, those who leave are no longer who they were when they entered. The curse of the white stone atop the hills of Marantha. There stood an ancient mansion forgotten by time. It was said that anyone who touched the white stone embedded in the garden of the property would be cursed with visions that transcended human understanding. One night, Elias, a skeptical archaeologist, decided to investigate the legend. Accompanied by his camera and journal, he crossed the rusty gates of the mansion. The fine, constant rain seemed to whisper warnings in every drop. As he approached the stone, he felt a shiver run up his spine. The surface was smooth as marble, yet pulsed faintly, as if it were breathing. He noted his impressions, unaware of the eyes watching him from the broken window. The first night passed uneasily. Sounds of footsteps echoed in the hallway, even though the house was empty. When Elias turned on his flashlight, he saw a dark mark forming on the wall, a silhouette standing still, faceless. On the second day, he returned to the garden to study the stone, but it had changed position. Now, it was closer to the front door, as if it wanted to enter. The intrigued archaeologist swore he would move it back to its original place. When he touched it again, he saw a child in his mind, locked in a dark room, screaming for help. The vision lasted seconds, but the fear was etched into his soul. This was not mere superstition. The nearby village avoided discussing the mansion. An elderly woman recounted that the stone sealed an ancient spirit of vengeance, buried there by 17th century monks. She said that moving the seal would unleash the suffering. Elias decided to dig around the stone. He found human bones, wrapped in remnants of tunics. Among the remains was a medallion with Latin inscriptions, Sanguis non mentiter, or the blood does not lie. That night, while reviewing his notes, he felt his hand write on its own. The words appeared in black ink. You have already been chosen. There is no escape. The stone sees you. His pen fell to the floor. He tried to flee, but the road vanished beneath thick fog. Each step led him back to the mansion. The curse now bound him to that soil, as if the roots of the earth wanted to devour him. Days passed, or perhaps weeks. Time lost its meaning. Elias heard whispers during the early hours. The stone, now inside the living room, emitted a pale glow. Each night, it drew closer to the room where he slept. At one point, he began to hear his own voice calling for help from beneath the floorboards. Upon removing the planks, he saw a distorted version of himself, trapped in agony, with eyes emptied of life. Elias finally understood. The stone was not a relic, but a portal. It fed on the sanity of the curious. Those who awakened it were duplicated, their souls forever trapped in the depths of the house. He tried to destroy the stone with fire and hammer, but nothing worked. Each blow returned as physical pain. The mansion, alive, fed on his resistance, transforming the place into a labyrinth with no exit. In the end, the true Elias disappeared. A new occupant emerged in the village, identical in appearance, but empty inside. He spoke little, and sometimes smiled while looking up at the hills, as if something up there still called to him. Since then, no one dares to ascend to the mansion. The stone remains still in the garden, but at night, if you listen closely, you might hear a voice whispering your name, promising to show you what lies beyond reality.